very interesting. Welcome to Let's Talk About It. I'm your host, Eric L. Carney. Thank you so much for joining us on today. Today, I have another special guest. I'm so glad that she's here tonight. Tonight's subject on Let's Talk About It is living saved and single. So this is this is going to be a really good one for everyone. And so I want to introduce to everyone out there my special guest, Chelsea Harris. Chelsea, how you doing?
Good.
Good to
Yourself?
see you. I am well. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're certainly welcome. So I know you and we've known each other for a good while.
Yes.
And so for those of you that do not know, Chelsea is a musician. She's a student. She's also a minister in the gospel. I like to call her the little Delaware Juanita Bynum. But most importantly, you are saved, you are single, and you are a college student.
Yes.
Yeah, so tell me about that. So, well, first of all, tell us, I know I just told everyone who you are, but you give us some background about yourself. Tell us about it.
Okay, so I am a 22-year-old college student. I will be graduating in the next month. Very excited about that. I'll be graduating from Delaware State University.
All right.
My major is mathematics education.
Wow.
Yeah, why would anyone want to teach and then teach math? Apparently I do. But I am an only daughter. I was born and raised in church. I have 3 brothers. Both of my parents were really involved in the ministry growing up. That's all I knew, church and God.
Yeah.
Raised around it. And I'm just happy to be here.
Okay. All right. So, and we are glad that you're here. And so, but let's talk about it.
Okay.
And what we're going to be talking about is living saved and single. Now, as you mentioned, you're a senior this year at Delaware State University, right?
Yes.
And you'll be graduating this
December.
December. So
December the 16th.
December the 16th. So y'all we got the invitations already?
They're in the works.
They're in the works? Okay. All right. So, there's people that are watching, so they're going to expect one too.
Yes.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's talk about you and as far as your college life. You mentioned you were raised in church.
Yes.
Okay. And often when you're raised in church, there are a couple little labels that get placed on us.
Of course.
Church boys, choir boys, church girl. And when you graduate from high school and when you put your first foot on campus, that label can also go with you. How do you feel about that label, first of all, as far as church girl, choir girl?
A lot of people think of it as a bad thing. I'm okay with it because if you can identify that I am a church girl, Christian girl, that means that my life is showing something.
Yes.
I am not offended by the labels, the titles that people may say.
Absolutely. That's what I'm talking about. So that's wonderful. So some people may say that being raised in church, and when I say raised in church, having your parents giving you godly guidelines, some people may look at that as saying, oh, she's sheltered. A lot of folks will say, oh, well, you shouldn't keep your kids in church like that. It's like you're keeping them away from experiencing things.
Right.
And but what are your thoughts about that when people feel that being sheltered? Yeah, you're sheltered.
It's not a bad thing. And for me, I don't think I was quote unquote sheltered because my parents, they had a balance. It was, godly living, it was Christian values. This is what we're going to stand for in our home. But we also had a balance. We went on family vacations. It wasn't just church. And then that sheltering protected us from a lot of things that a lot of people experience things when they're young and they get exposed to all this stuff. And it's harmful. And we didn't have those type of experiences. So I don't see it as a bad thing, quote unquote, sheltering. Me, it was a good thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was also a balance. It wasn't over churching. There was a balance in family values and family time, so it wasn't just church, church, church.
Yeah, because a lot of people think that that's all we know is church.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, you guys went to Great Adventure? Wait a minute, you guys are
You
going
went
to a
to
ball
Disney?
game? You went to Disney? God ain't in that. And
You
like,
had
well,
fun?
yeah, yeah, exactly. What do you mean you're going to a Friday night football game? We have church every Friday night. Ain't nobody going. And so people think that, growing up in church, that's all there is.
Yeah.
But, and me, I was raised in church all my life. And my kids are raised in church. But like you said, it's about having a good balance.
Yes.
But in your time on campus, tell me about that. Your first time walking on Delaware State University. Um, I'm sure you saw friends that you may have known that were in church as well. Okay. And did you happen to see anyone else like, hey, you know what? This is it. I'm
I'm
free.
free.
You know what? I'm gonna turn down for what?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, did you experience any of that? Did you see any of that out there?
I did.
Okay.
I saw a little bit of that, and I saw a little bit of people that I know were raised in church try that, but eventually come back.
Yeah, yeah.
So I
yeah.
saw some people lose themselves because of all the freedom that they have now, and different environment, and parents are not there to stay on top of them.
Right.
I saw some people that I know were born in church, raised in church. They knew, Christian values, but they strayed away. But I also know some that stuck to those values,
Right.
may have gone to some parties and tried it out, but came back and said, this is not for me.
Yeah, because you know what? Well, let's be real. There are going to be times when we, as people growing up in church, when you have that one opportunity when no one's around. All right, yeah, I may just try it. Just let me, and that happens. Okay,
Yes.
and so of course, but we just have to be so careful because we don't know that it only takes one time
Yes,
to
one
really
time.
alter your life, to just make it going down the wrong path. What would you say to someone that may feel that way, that, you know what, I'm going down that path and I'm trying to get back, but I'm just stuck?
I would say there is a way out. And even though it may seem like this is the easiest path, it's actually the harder path, because in the long run, you're going to have more consequences, and it might be harder to come back to God. I would say choose today that you are going to make a change. If you're going this way, you know it's leading you astray, choose today to bring yourself back. It's better to make that choice now than to wait and you're further out there and it's harder to come back. Choose today. Make up your mind today. Is this the better way to go, or am I just going to go with the flow, go with my peers, and go with the broader way, the easier way? Or am I going to take a stand today and do what I know is going to benefit me in the long run? And that's to choose God.
Yeah.
Choose His way.
That's just so profound. You said, because that is a scripture. Choose you this day who you're going to serve.
Yes.
And that's the great thing about God. He doesn't force himself on us. He gives us a choice. He gives us life and death. We can choose. And of course, we all know that the Bible says, what do we get in return for sin? The wages of sin is what?
It's just death.
It's death.
Just death.
Yeah, right, exactly. And now someone might say, well, you know what? I may not die physically, but you know what? But you can die spiritually. And that can be the worst, okay? Your hopes, your dreams could die. There's just so many things. It's just the law of God. His word cannot lie. Something has to die.
Yes.
And if it actually is a physical death, and if we're caught in that moment.
Becomes eternal death.
Exactly. So it's not even worth it, is it?
It's not worth it.
No. So what kept you grounded? Because we all know Delaware State University, like any college,
Yes.
there's parties, there's frats, there's sororities, there's all these different activities that go along all the time. What kept you grounded to your morals? What kept you saved?
Before I even started college, having a strong relationship with God, that was important. Because if you go on campus with a weak relationship with God, just starting out, you're kind of setting yourself up to fail unless you know that you're going to build that relationship and you're going to be determined about that.
Yeah.
Having a strong relationship going into college, so I really started to have a relationship with God in my early teens. So
Wow.
it started years before I
Yeah.
even stepped foot on the campus.
Yeah, because I mean, for those of you listeners that are and viewers that are watching, we know, I personally know of your walk with God, and for years, even with our ministry, you worked with our young people, and they looked up to you. They still look up to you, and so this is something that I can personally say that that you actually walk the walk. It's not just about talking it and saying, you should do this and you should live holy and be holy, but you actually live the life and you are living the life, and the proof is in the pudding. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure we had you on the show to talk about that, and just for people to see that you can be saved and single.
And young.
And young, yeah,
And young.
exactly. And young, okay. And so now I'm sure, now I'm not going to put it out there because we said the name of the show is Saved and Single. Is there a young suitor in the... It's out there now, okay, and I'm sure Dad's watching, like, say, what did he say?
Got listening.
Yeah. So is there a young suitor in young Chelsea's life?
Currently, no.
Currently, no.
Currently, no. Still saved and single.
There you go. All right. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, I can honestly say, because you and I, like I said, we've known each other through church, and then even also in personal lives with family and business transactions and things. And I know of my colleagues that have interacted with you through business. They have just said, wow, that young lady's special. She carries herself so well. And they were just amazed with you. When you came to my place of business, they days after you left, they couldn't stop talking about
wow.
how you carried yourself. And I told them, I said, well, that's the love of God. That's God's anointing on her life. And so you are truly to be commended. And I know your mom and dad are proud.
Yes.
They are proud. I'm running out of things here to say. I'm just going to put these down here.
Okay.
So I've got other things, but we're just going off the script. So what's new for you? So you're getting ready to graduate in December.
Yes.
What's the next step for you?
Upon graduation, I'm actually in a process where I am hearing from God.
All right.
Because graduating from high school, that's a big step. You're like, okay, God, where do you want me next? Graduating from college, it's another big step. Okay, God, where do you want me next? So I have all these options spinning around my head, but I'm like focused on His voice, because I know with the ministries that He has inside of me to be birthed, I feel like it's about that time where He's going to start letting those things come forth.
Yeah.
So I don't want to let my plans interrupt His plans. So when people ask, okay, what are you doing after college? Well, I have this option. I'm thinking about pursuing my master's, but it's just an option. I'm going to still apply. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, just to make sure that I have options lined up.
Yeah.
But I'm still hearing the voice of God. And once He says move, even though I have this prepared, I'm going to go with what He has.
Wow. See, that's just wonderful, Chelsea. Simply because there are a lot of people out there that have their degrees, that have their education, and planning things out. This is the path that I'm going, and I understand. We are to prepare and
Right.
to get education, but the most important thing that stuck out to me, what you just said, is I'm seeking to hear from God. The song by Karen Clark Sheard and Kiki, the safest place in the whole wide world
It's in the will of
is in
God.
the will of God. And so that is just, I'm amazed. I mean, that's just wonderful. I mean, so folks, you're getting ready to graduate. You're getting ready to graduate within
Yes.
30 days.
Within 30 days.
Within 30 days, could get a job just like that. but she's seeking God, saying, Lord, what is your plan for me? You know, I heard T.D. Jakes say a long time ago when he was looking for another place for worship. And he had so many options that were available. And he said, you know what, I would go to these places and I would pray and I would speak in tongues and oh yes, yes, yes. And this is the place for me. And he said, I would feel the presence of God. I know this is what God has for me. God, you led me here. You put all these steps for me. And then he wouldn't get the building. He would be passed over. And so it was disappointing. And finally he said, the next time a building came available, he stopped and he prayed. He said, Lord, is my destiny, my plan that you have for me connected with this building? If so, great. But if not, block it. And so I think that is just so wonderful. What you're saying is, I want to hear from God, to hear his plan. And I know he has a plan for you. I know you know he has a plan for you. And now the listeners, you all do not realize that the enemy tried to take you out.
Just recently.
Just recently.
Just recently.
Just recently.
Yes.
And I honestly believe in my whole heart, my heart of hearts, okay, that it's because of the plan that God has for you.
Trying to interrupt.
Trying to interrupt, because you sing, you play, you're a gift that you teach, you preach, and I can appreciate the fact how you're feeling, that God, I have the ability to do this with my life, but Lord, I want to seek your face. I want to hear from you, because sometimes our plans aren't God's plans. But the enemy tried to take you out this summer. Was it Memorial Day or 4th of July?
4th of July. On the 4th of July.
On the 4th of July. Tell us about that.
So I was en route to a 4th of July barbecue, and about a minute away from my cousin's house where the barbecue was. And I'm just driving, and I'm expecting a car and I to just pass each other. And out of nowhere, he starts spinning. I mean, it's like we're about to pass each other, then boom, he starts spinning out of control. And in that moment, I couldn't even say, couldn't call on Jesus. It was just, it happened so fast. And I'm just like, okay, this is happening. This is happening. Okay. So he hits me head on, and what happens to him, I didn't know at the time until afterwards. I saw pictures, but I was just sitting there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this just happened. And I'm trying to get out of the car and trying to find my phone to call someone, and I realize I can't move because something's going on with my leg. My leg was bleeding out. And a person that lived nearby came and let me use their phone. So I was aware, I was conscious, I was alert, but it was really, really scary, a really, really scary incident. And then on the way to the hospital, I'm thinking, wow, this was totally unexpected. And I'm just like, all right, God, well, I thank you for letting me be here, but I'm just like, stop. I'm shocked, I'm stunned.
Right.
But the process of healing, being in the hospital, and the prayers of loved ones and family members really helped me. And it wasn't until this past week, that God started to bring some things together about that accident.
Okay.
And the one
Tell
thing
us
that
about it.
he told me was,
Let's talk about it.
in all things, give thanks.
Wow.
In all things, give thanks. And I'm sitting there like, okay, I thanked you for my life, for sparing my life. And he's like, no. In all things, give thanks. Because you're still here. That test, that trial, that accident, it didn't take you out. So who I made you to be is stronger than what tried to come against you. So in all things, in the accident, give thanks. Because I'm building you.
Yes.
And I see that every day, how I'm growing stronger, not only physically, but spiritually. He's allowing the pieces to come together.
Right.
And he's showing me the beauty in that accident.
Wow, because you said the beauty in that accident, and that accident, to find beauty out of that, you had to have a different pair of glasses on
Yes.
to find beauty out of that, because unfortunately, there was a fatality
Yes.
in the accident. The driver who hit you passed away,
Yes.
and your leg was tremendously injured. And I remember when we got the call, we went over to the hospitals to see you. We dropped what we were doing, and we all just rushed over. And I can remember seeing you, on the stretcher, and just the agony in your face and the pain, and you're just trembling and still going through the shock. Sometimes things can happen to us and just be shocking and just can be so, for lack of better words, gruesome. And
Yes.
did you ever ask God why?
I asked God why a long time ago, and this was because of another health issue that He allowed me to go through and to overcome, and that was SJS, Stephen Johnson syndrome. It was in my teen years that I went through a period of depression, and I asked God constantly, why me? Why did you allow this to happen to me? Because I'm still dealing with things in my body. I'm still dealing with all these things. Everything's not whole, it's not complete. And what happened at 4 years old is still affecting me today. It's affecting my self-esteem, it's affecting me emotionally, it's affecting me mentally, spiritually. Why me?
Yeah.
The only answer, the only response that I could get back was, why not?
Wow.
Why not? And it brings me back to His response after the accident: in all things give thanks.
Yeah.
Why not? I know that you're able to go through it, and when you come out of it, you're going to be stronger than you were when you experienced the loss, experienced the sickness, and you're going to be able to reach people that someone else can't.
Yeah, yeah.
I can talk to SJS survivors. I can talk to people who have been in accidents. I can talk to people who have gone through depressions. I can talk to people who have battled thoughts of suicide and say, I was there.
Yeah.
So instead of asking why me,
Yeah.
why me, why not? It's for the building of His kingdom.
Wow. So I'm so glad that we are talking about this. And to be honest with you folks, even just now as you're sharing some things that I did not know that you struggled with, or I won't say that you struggled with. I'll just say that you went through. You didn't stay there. You went through it.
Yes.
And how the things that we go through in life, they can seem so cruel, so rugged, so ugly, and you're asking why. I can't help but think about the cross. How the cross of Jesus was bloody. It was horrible. It was agonizing. And Jesus Himself asked, why? Why have you forsaken me? And sometimes life can bring us through an ugly moment. But God knew this was the plan. There was a purpose. And going through that ugly moment, He knew there was going to be a time where there's going to be rest and recovery, but there's going to be that Sunday morning when you raise up and all power is in your hand. And I'm looking at you now, and I reflect to that cross moment when you were in the hospital, when the emergency room was just flooded with friends and family. And I would just say just family, because everybody, we look at you as family.
You are family.
And it was an ugly cross moment. But I look at you now. I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, how the testimony that you have, and how, just like the cross was ugly for Jesus, He went through it, and we are all beneficiaries. So we are all benefiting from that ugly moment. And like you said, now that you've gone through, you see you can help someone with, is it Stephen
Johnson syndrome.
Stephen Johnson syndrome. I'm gonna have to you come back and talk about that.
Sure,
Because
sure.
I knew there was something Didn't never quite knew the name, but that's just something else that God has brought you through. Because often we will have the purpose of Let's Talk About It. The purpose of Let's Talk About It is to talk about things that we as Christians go through. And we ask ourselves, okay, why am I going through this? This is hard, but God doesn't put more on us than what we can bear.
Right.
And so if we have it, we can endure it, and we are more than conquerors. And I look at you now, you have a testimony. You're able to share that with other people, because there's someone right now on campus right now that's thinking, this is too much for me. I've gone too far. I was raised, I wasn't, let's just say, you might be saying I might not have been raised in the church, but I knew right from wrong. I knew I shouldn't have done this. I knew I shouldn't have, I slept with her, I slept with him, I did this, I did that. I smoked, I drank too much. My mom and dad are going to kill me because now all my money, I'm going to lose my scholarship because I party too much. But I want you to know it's not too late. You just heard a testimony from Chelsea Harris, who has gone through successfully 4 years of school. And I don't know, maybe you may have had some strong temptations here and there, but I mean, I'm not saying I'm not gonna go see if I can Google something on you. But the fact that you made it and that you are making it is a testimony for someone else. And so I'm glad you came on today.
I'm glad I'm here.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I don't know which camera to look at, so I'm going to look at this one right here. This evening's guest has been Chelsea Harris of Felton, Delaware, senior at Delaware State University. Not only is she saved, but she is single, and she's living on fire for God and seeking God for the next step.
Yes.
So thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So once again, thank you for joining us today on Let's Talk About It. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. I have another special guest, so make sure you log on to IAC Delaware, or rather download our free app, IAC Delaware, or you can also check us out on Facebook at IAC Delaware. Can't go wrong with IAC Delaware. So take care. God bless. We'll see you next time.